Hi Lucy, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
No worries, we're live at Vegan Campout.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to ask you a little bit about what was your kind of catalyst for going vegan?
Oh yeah, okay. Oh my gosh, it feels like a long time ago now. I've actually been vegan for nearly 9 years, which is kind of crazy. But I went vegetarian when I was, no, actually pescatarian, I always get this wrong, when I was 6, because we moved to a working farm when I was 5, and made the connection between what I was eating as a child and made the connection between what was on my plate and, you know, the animals in the fields. Also had to watch, you know, the animals being sent to slaughter and everything like that. My farmer at the time took me to the market, which is where they buy the animals that are going to be killed, which is awful as well when I was a really young child. So I stopped eating animals, but I did still eat fish and dairy and eggs. And then I watched Cowspiracy when I was about, well, whenever it came out. So that was probably 9 years ago, 10 years ago. And then I just went vegan overnight because I honestly, even though I grew up on a working farm, I had no idea that the eggs, dairy and everything that they were, there was still like harm involved with the animals. So I've always been an animal lover and I just wanted to stay true to that. So yeah.
That makes sense. I think a lot of people, they see the animals and they understand that, oh Lord, they're getting slaughtered and it's horrifying, but then the dairy industry, it's not at the forefront, is it, of people?
Yeah, I think that people don't realise, which seems so crazy because obviously all mammals, mothers, like mammal mothers, have to have a baby to produce milk. I mean, I'm a mum right now, so it's even more of a connection, but I think that for some reason people just think that cows just produce milk and just forget about the baby
and the pregnancy.
And they have a 9-month pregnancy just like a human, and then obviously like the babies, they can't be feeding the babies milk and feeding the humans milk. So unfortunately, a lot of the calves get killed day one they get shot in the head. So
oh Lord. And when you're mostly known for Made in Chelsea, right? That's kind of how people know you initially. But you've done a lot more since then. You've done a lot of activism. You've released cookbooks.
Yes.
You got the BAFTA, which is incredible. So
yeah, thank you. Cookbooks is kind of my avenue, and a lot of my activism I think came from just creating like really yummy food, because I feel like that is quite all forms of activism are great, but I just feel like people love food and they want to know they can still eat delicious food that's vegan. I think a lot of people think they have to make all these sacrifices when they choose to go vegan, but actually you can still have amazing meals that are nutritious, or you can even have vegan junk food if you want it. You know, there's everything. So that's kind of the route that I went down. I do the occasional debate on TV in terms of like activism, but that's how it's kind of gone.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you're quite interested as well, aren't you, in the kind of beauty products and cruelty-free?
So I was actually cruelty-free before I was vegan, so probably, I don't even know from how old, really young. As soon as I started wearing makeup and I knew that animals were tested on, I stopped using those products. I talk a lot about vegan beauty, vegan cruelty-free beauty products. I mean, there's just so many now.
Yeah.
It's like, again, no sacrifices needed. Like, there's just so many options for people.
It should just be the kind of standard, right?
Yes.
But then unfortunately you've got certain countries where it's still kind of...
Yeah, I think it's China is where it's required, although there are some loopholes now with that. But also just having animal ingredients in beauty products, you don't need animal ingredients. Like, it's just not necessary at all, and nothing's compromised. The quality is still amazing, if not better. So
yeah, it's baffling. It's actually a thing. I mean, in terms of like jewellery as well, that's another one of your interests, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I used to work with jewellery. I actually stopped working with jewellery last year, but I mean, again, that's more of like a sustainable thing, like using recycled metals. I love where I can, trying to be, because veganism has so many different avenues, and I feel like sustainability is a big one, and it's closely tied with veganism and just like in general, you know, preserving the planet, trying to look after our planet. So I have also become more interested in sustainability through going vegan. And I think that probably happens for a lot of people that go vegan. Yeah,
absolutely. You come in for like one reason, and then whenever you start to learn more and more, and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And this makes sense. And
there's so many different branches to that tree.
Absolutely. Yeah. In terms of like your brand as well, and all the followers and things like that you have on social media, how do they kind of respond to sort of the vegan message, you know, when you're talking about it?
Yeah, I feel like I've been a bit slack, if I'm honest, on the activism side of things. I just had a baby like 4 months ago, so I've just been a little bit like, I don't know, I've just not had as much time, to be honest, but I do still obviously post about activism regularly, and there's always going to be backlash. I think one of my favourite ones is when people are so outraged that I'm posting about animals and not people. So especially with everything that's going on with Palestine and Gaza right now, if I post about animal activism, I get a lot of people saying, why aren't you posting about this? Why aren't you posting about that? And I do just think that's just incredibly unfair. You know, any activism is of course helpful and beneficial and good, and you can't be seen to be posting about literally everything because there's so many issues in the world, and my focus has always been animal activism, and of course I do still post about human rights issues, but I just think just because you're posting out one thing, it doesn't mean you don't care about something else or you don't care about everything that's going on. But I think for me, I found that posting particularly about animal activism, focusing on that, I can have a greater impact on that particular issue. So that is what I talk about primarily, but I always, of course, talk about human rights issues as well.
Absolutely, and the problem with that as well is, you know what the internet's like. It's, if you did that, people would suddenly start to say, oh, she's virtue signalling.
Yeah.
And what's she really done about it?
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, well, I'm only one person and I can't win.
There's always haters.
There's always, yes. Yeah. In the wise words of Taylor Swift, the hater's going to hate.
Exactly, and yeah, it's part and parcel of doing what I do, so.
What's kind of, for you, one of the standout moments in terms of your career and also in terms of like veganism and things that you're really proud of?
Yeah, I think with veganism, obviously my books, my first vegan book that I did sold really well, it was a bestseller, and I worked on a project called Awakenings over when COVID was happening. I wrote a book, basically. I used that pandemic to write a book, and it was all about like opening your eyes to what's going on, waking up basically, and I loved doing that because I actually had to do so much of my own research to write that book, and I just found out so much stuff about why we eat, you know, why society eats the way that it does, and it was kind of baffling. But I think probably one of my favourite activism moments was when I confronted a turkey farmer on This Morning.
Yes.
And basically got him to say the words, I slit their throats. And I just think to get that out on national TV for me was such a win, because I feel like people, you know, a lot of farmers, they avoid using this kind of language and they try and sugarcoat what happens to the animals, and to actually have him say, I kill the turkeys by slitting their throats, I think hopefully it reached quite a lot of people, and it did shock some people, and hopefully some people, you know, went vegetarian or vegan off the back of it. So
absolutely,
yeah.
To be able to have that platform in order to do that, to get that TV coverage, because it's so difficult. Yeah. So it's great that there was actually broadcast.
Definitely, and I love, that's one of my favourite forms of activism, but I do get asked to do quite a lot of interviews that are just a bit stupid, to be honest. Yeah. But I like to be picky about the ones that are really going to have the most impact, and I'd love to debate with Piers Morgan, actually. But I have had the option to a few times, but I think it's fallen through at the last minute a couple of times. But there's certain people that I would just love to talk to about this topic. You know?
He's got a formula, that's the thing. He will just attack, then he'll be really childish.
Just doesn't let anyone speak as well. So maybe it wouldn't actually be worth my time. Anyway.
I think it's a showmanship thing though with him. I'm not convinced he's that odious in real life. Yeah. He might be, but I think it's definitely, he's playing up to the cameras.
Maybe. Yeah, and obviously majority of people aren't vegan, so I guess you're going to get maybe more love in that sense.
When Juliet went on to debate with him, at the end he did say, well, your people will get a lot out of this, and so will mine, because it's so polarised.
True, and that is true actually. He's actually done quite a lot of good for veganism, because he's really put it on mainstream platforms and regularly and consistently, and I do actually think that sometimes his approach is off-putting for even non-vegans.
I think so too. I saw a few comments and they were like, oh, the way he interviews, it's just, he looks ridiculous and he's childish.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to have a debate with him, or anyone really. I love debating about this topic.
Excellent. When you mentioned sort of in 2020 as well, when you were writing and you were doing your own research, did you feel like that was kind of a crucial moment for you? Because I know for a lot of people slowed down a lot.
What, with veganism?
Just in terms of like with having COVID and being kind of
slowed down a lot. Okay.
Yeah, people kind of take on board what's important.
Yeah, I think, during that time you definitely, I mean, a lot has changed since then. I feel like the whole world has changed since then. And you do realise what's important, but for me it keeps me motivated as well, to kind of speak up for the voiceless. And I guess doing my research, one of the most shocking things that I found out was the reason that we eat the animals that we eat is because they are basically the kindest and the most gentle. So they're the easiest to control in large numbers, which is just so awful. And when I found that out, I just thought, God, I really just need to keep plowing on with this activism, you know? So important.
I was going to ask as well, obviously, congratulations on your baby.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Are you going to raise the baby vegan? Or?
Yeah, so I've shied away from talking about this, only because when I did first touch on it online, I actually had people saying that I should be in prison and I should be arrested and all these kind of things, and it was quite scary because a miracle for me to have a child, and to have anyone say that your child should be taken away is like the scariest thing. But I think it goes without saying that I won't be feeding him animals, let's just say that. So
it's quite common for a lot, sorry about to bring it up, but it's for a lot of vegans. I know a lot of people who had their own children, and even in the adoption process.
Is it really?
Yeah, they get questioned quite a lot.
Really?
Are you going to be feeding this child this because you're vegan? And so they answer very carefully, and they tend to show the science as to why.
Yes.
And I think it's a fear and a misinformation again.
It's every World Health Organization agrees that you are able to be nutritionally complete on a vegan diet. So you're not missing anything. So I don't see what the problem is, but I just think people just don't understand. And also I think it's quite hard for me to want to speak about my son and his life without him having a say.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give him too much of a footprint online in a way before he understands. But you know, I think that it's such a big choice to make a child eat an animal.
Agreed.
And I think I would want that choice to be his one day rather than me take away his choice.
I think so too. It's like, look, the children love animals. They're always quite horrified when they hear what happens to them. I mean, that's a catalyst for a lot of people going vegan or vegetarian.
Yeah.
And I guess if it's a case of he changes his mind at 10 and says, actually, I want to eat them.
Yeah.
Okay,
then that's his choice.
Yeah, completely.
And obviously I would not be the happiest, but
no.
But you know, it's his choice, and I feel like right now he can't make an informed decision. So until then, I'll do what I think is best. And you know, we'll see where it ends up.
Yeah, and each generation's different. You know, your parents try to do better than their parents, and each time, and it feeds on. I remember my mum going, "I'm so sorry, I thought pasta was healthy."
Oh, really?
And I was like, it was tasty. It was much better than what a lot of people ate.
Yeah,
and
I lived on pasta.
Yeah, it was the 90s. It was a thing.
I think there's a lot worse foods in the world than pasta.
Agreed. In terms of kind of projects and things that you're working on at the moment, have you got anything in the pipeline, or are you just enjoying some time?
Yeah, I've got a few things. Unfortunately, can't talk about.
That's okay.
But one of them is very vegan related, and is really exciting. But again, it will be coming out next year, so I can talk about it more then. But I'm also renovating a home with my husband. That's kind of what we're doing now in our family. That's not stressful
at all with a new baby.
I know. Well, I actually moved a few weeks after he was born.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of crazy. But that's just me. And yeah, we're just kind of create our dream home together. So that's our biggest life project right now. And then I'm just still working with a lot of vegan brands, a lot of beauty brands. They're kind of where I seem to do most of my work, is vegan beauty brands. But yeah.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, you're welcome, and good luck with the renovations and everything.
Thank you. I'm gonna go get some food.